I am Louisiana. With my offshore waters, I'm the #1 crude oil producer in the U.S. and #3 producer of natural gas. I have the #2 refining capacity in the nation. And with a strong port system and an extensive oil field service industry, I have a healthy and stable economy. Today, I stand strong, confident in tomorrow. Together, we unite as one voice to celebrate 90 years of LMOGA and over a century of Louisiana's oil and gas industry. The strength, values, and hard work of the industry fuel our nation and continue to provide innovation for future generations. LMOGA, fueling our future.
We're Louisiana Mid-Continent Oil and Gas Association. We're the trade association for the major oil and gas companies in Louisiana that operate in the Gulf, onshore. We also represent all the refineries and the pipelines. So we are the association that represents about 320,000 workers in this state and about a $77 billion economic engine. Well, we're celebrating our annual meeting. We come together once a year here in New Orleans and talk about issues and kind of just really talk about and celebrate the industry itself. This is an especially a special year this year where we're celebrating our 90-year anniversary. You see all around the room, it's a wonderful time for us to talk about our industry. We're going to use this celebration, not only just launching it here today, but also throughout the year to tell the people in Louisiana and outside of Louisiana about how important this industry is, not just to our state, but to America. The theme of our 90-year celebration is fueling the future, which is very appropriate because Louisiana is obviously a major player in fueling the energy needs for America. So we're excited about it. We have a great turnout today, a great list of speakers. So we're really excited about launching this campaign and continue to tell our story about this industry. I want to welcome everyone to the LMOGA annual meeting 2013. What a great way to start. Obviously, it's a wonderful time for us. We're especially excited about our anniversary, our 90 years of anniversary. I want to thank all of you for coming out to this meeting. What a great crowd that we've had. Just a few things about the campaign. Yeah, I'm especially excited about this year. We've been doing an annual meeting now for several years here in New Orleans, but this is a very exciting year as we celebrate our 90th year as Mid-Continent. And obviously from the video, you saw that our theme this year is going to be fueling the future, which I think is very, very appropriate in what Louisiana does and sits right at the mouth of the Mississippi River and all the things that we offer to providing energy security for our country. But this campaign is not only going to be, obviously launched today, but certainly is not over today. It is a campaign that we're going to take throughout the entire year, focusing on different aspects of the oil and gas industry, how it's important to Louisiana, how it's important to America, and frankly, the global implications of the Gulf of Mexico. So it's a wonderful opportunity for us to talk about our industry in a very positive light, the fact that we've been around for 90 years. We've provided quality of life for many families in our state, quality of life for many Americans because of the energy that we produce. But also we've had some challenges over that 90 years, but we've been resilient, as you saw the video. Been around, and we're going to continue to be around for many, many years. So we're really excited about launching it today, but the next year. Some of the, as we got into this campaign, some of the facts about our industry actually surprised me in so many ways. The biggest fact that we found is that if you take the Gulf of Mexico and the Gulf of Mexico region, if it were a country, it would be the 8th largest oil-producing country in the world. just this region right here. You know, you've obviously seen the promos all over the place about where Louisiana and the Gulf of Mexico is the #1 producer of oil in our nation. We're #2 in refining capacity. So those are the kinds of, I think, facts that we need to get out to talk about our industry in a very positive way, because the future is so bright.
It has been a great 90 years, and I'm reminded when I see the film here and get a chance to visit with you all how this place, when it comes to energy exploration, production, storage, transportation, whatever it may be, refining, processing, there's no more important piece of real estate in all of America than Louisiana, and certainly you have helped make it that way. And it's appropriate for me to thank you as a person who works in government, to thank you, because I realize that you have a choice where it is that you spend your capital. And you have a globe that is in front of you that is a lot smaller, if you would, than our grandfather's globe, and you have the opportunities to be there. And many of you have chosen to be here in Louisiana, and through that, you've created jobs, you've paid taxes, and you've built a better quality of life for Louisianians. There's no doubt about it. And I would tell you, I believe this generation of Louisianians understands the fact that, in fact, you do have choices where you spend your capital, and I think we are increasingly trying to make it an environment, business environment, for you to say yes more and more to Louisiana. One of the things I would say that I think underlie all of that is the fact that we are a unique slice of America, and you know this because you live it every day, that understands that we do not have to be a either-or nation. We do not have to be a either-or state. That we can, in fact, have it all. We can fuel America every day, and we can enjoy some of the best hunting, camping, fishing in all of the world. And I'm proud to be a part of that unique state, and I know you as well.
At ExxonMobil, our annual Outlook for Energy report predicts that global energy demand will grow 35% from a base in 2010 by the year 2040. Even with significant efficiency gains. That's a significant number, and it will require significant investments in both technology and infrastructure. The chart you see on the screen shows rate of annual growth for a given energy supply component to meet that expected demand in 2040. Let me just point out a couple of things on the chart, because you'll see them on subsequent charts. On the vertical axis is a measure of energy demand. It's in BTUs, in this case quadrillion BTUs. That's 10 to the power 15. I'm sure you'll use that as a trivia fact later on today. The bars are energy components, of course, and they'll usually have a starting point in 2010 and show rate of growth out to 2040. And that'll be that rate of growth on an annual basis is represented by the percentage at the top of the bar. And oil and gas, of course, are prominent, and I'll speak about that now. Energy supply for oil and gas will continue to grow, as you can see on the chart, while coal moderates. And in 2040 is expected to be about the same in terms of its source of energy to fuel demand as it is in 2010. Oil and gas grow to the extent that by that time, gas will move into the second position, supplanting coal. Nuclear and renewables are represented in the other bar on this chart, and they will also experience significant growth over that time period. And all of that will be needed to meet the demand in spite of what we expect will be energy savings through efficiency gains. And the energy savings through efficiency gains are represented on this chart by the far blue-colored bar. And you'll notice that without those energy and efficiency gains, the supply to meet demand would have to be more than double from what is depicted on this chart if we didn't have those savings. Much of the expected increase in demand will be driven by rising economic prosperity and population growth in developing countries such as Africa and India. In total, the world's population is expected to reach 9 billion people by 2040, up from 7 billion roughly today. And you can see that depicted on this chart on the left graph that shows population growth over that time period. And it's showing population in two segments. The blue OECD, that stands for Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, that you consider as the developed world. And then non-OECD, of course, would be the developing world. And prominent in that segment are the countries of China, Africa, India. As the population grows, particularly in the non-OECD, so does economic prosperity. And it's shown here in the middle panel as GDP, gross domestic product. And you see gross domestic or economic prosperity growth in both the developed world and the developing world. But that economic prosperity coupled with the population growth fuels a substantial increase in energy demand. And you'll see that depicted on the far right chart, or far right chart of this panel. Actually, the energy demand in the developed world flattens due to the efficiency gains that I spoke about on the prior chart. More than half of the expected increase in world energy demand will be for electricity generation. And that's shown on this panel in comparison to other demand sectors such as industrial, transportation, and residential and commercial. And while all of the sectors show growth in demand, power generation dominates, growing by 85% over the outlook period. Even though there'll be increases in the use of renewable energy sources, oil and natural gas will continue to provide the lion's share of the world's energy needs for the next several decades. This chart tries to convey how we expect our energy mix to continue to evolve, and it compares energy supply components and their relative growth rates between the years 2010 and 2040. You'll see the reference point in the bar at 2010 via the dashed line coming across, and then of course the top of the bar is that growth to 2040. Our forecasts show that in 2040, oil will remain the most widely used fuel worldwide, while natural gas will overtake coal for the #2 spot. And you can see that depicted on the chart with coal staying at essentially a no growth rate over the time period and representing in 2040 the component of supply that roughly exists today. But natural gas, substantial increase in growth over that time period and moves ahead in terms of absolute contribution. Also notice the light blue segment showing the renewables and its significant annual growth rate of 5.8% per year through this period, the highest on the chart in terms of a rate of growth. But even with such high annual growth, its absolute contribution by 2040 is relatively small by comparison to the traditional hydrocarbon-based sources. So while investment and technology is applied to renewable sources of energy, and they fuel a substantial growth rate over the time period, starting from such a small, by comparison, point relative to the traditional sources, it still will remain small in absolute contribution out in outlook year. This chart shows a regional supply prediction for both oil and gas in North America. And you'll see the oil in green, gas in red, and the two are combined to represent a total energy balance outlook in North America in the purple chart, purple colored chart. Growth in oil is driven by deep water in the Gulf of Mexico, unconventionals such as the Eagle Ford Shale in Texas, the Bakken in North Dakota, and the Canadian oil sands. And growth in gas is driven by both conventional and unconventionals, but to name some of the plays, Haynesville, Louisiana, which many of you are very familiar with, the Marcellus in Pennsylvania, and the Barnett in Texas. And combining those two and their expected growth and development will produce by 2030 a situation where North America will likely have completed an amazing transition from a net energy importer to a net exporter, mainly due to the unconventional resource development. That's quite a statement and a positive outlook for the region where we live. This chart breaks down technology-driven segments, those being deep water, natural gas liquids, and unconventional oil. And it breaks them down by geographic region. And you'll see, probably some of you in the back will have a hard time seeing the regions depicted, but let me just name them. North America is the yellow wedge on the bottom. Latin America, Africa, Middle East, Russia, Caspian, and Asia Pacific. And I'll not go through each of the segments, but I want to point out the North American component of these charts. The expected growth in North American resource is a major success story, and it's made possible by advanced technology and human ingenuity and people like us. This changing energy landscape and the resulting opportunities it affords will continue to provide consumers with more choices, more value, more wealth, and most importantly, more good jobs. And I think you'll see that the expected growth in North America is substantial. And we're in a position to capitalize on that by virtue of the maturity and the technology and the ingenuity that we have within our industry here. But while it's true that unconventional supplies will play a major role in meeting future demand, conventional resources are still vitally important and will remain so for the foreseeable future. For example, you can see on this chart that conventional crude oil production, which is shown as the green at the bottom, will still account for 55% of the world's liquid supply in 2040. And while conventional production from both OPEC and non-OPEC sources is expected to decline somewhat between now and 2040, that decline is more than offset by rising production from crude oil from the deep water, the oil sands, and the tight oil resources, all of which is underpinned by advances in technology. So how will this affect our future? Well, ExxonMobil will invest approximately $5 billion over the next 3 years in deepwater Gulf of Mexico exploration and development. In other words, we believe the technology and the integrity management systems needed to ensure safe, timely, and economically viable resource development. Development that will create additional jobs, provide government revenues, and help us meet our future energy needs. Of course, maximizing the potential of U.S. resources is dependent on a wide range of factors, including access to federal acreage at stable fiscal terms, regulatory certainty and transparency, and timely permitting approvals. These factors are especially important in deepwater exploration and development, where projects face multiple technical challenges and commercial risks, and the dollars are very big. Needless to say, it's difficult to commit to a long-term billion-dollar project when the regulatory environment is uncertain. To reach our shared goal of responsible energy development, government policymaking must provide a reliable framework for investment and innovation, one that serves to foster entrepreneurship, new ideas, and a level playing field. History has shown us again and again that well-developed government policies surrounding energy exploration and production can attract innovation, resourcefulness, and capital. And to that end, all of us in the industry welcome the ongoing dialogue on potential enhancements to the regulatory framework that govern exploration and production on the outer continental shelf of the Gulf of Mexico.
We operate in a lot of different places, and we're one of the major independent operators in California. California is a very, very interesting place. It has a lot of parallels to Louisiana. It's got tremendous advantages. It's got, I think it's number 3 in oil production in the United States. Nobody knows that. Nobody in California knows that for sure. Okay, I can tell you that. They don't know why they produce oil. They have no idea. And we're the second largest operator offshore California in the Pacific Ocean, behind Exxon, and we're basically, so from a standpoint, we understand regulation in a way that few people in this room can ever comprehend it. And it takes about 3 years to get a permit to drill a well in the federal offshore of California if you meet a high threshold of requirements. Like you have to have the rig already there 3 years before to check out the emissions, so you can file the right permit. Who's got a rig 3 years before they're going to ever drill out there? It's got to be that rig. So you got to own your rigs out there, things like that. And so when you look at the Gulf of Mexico, and now it's gone from 3-week permitting, pre-Macondo, to now 18 months. Oh my God, this is terrible, and so forth. That's half the time it takes in California. But again, there's maybe 1 or 2 rigs running in offshore California, and there's 52 running in the Gulf of Mexico. So I think the value of an organization like this, and to be able to keep it local, and to have sponsorship like Admiral Watson come down with his entourage and really investigate how he can be a partner, how he can work together, is critical to the survival of this region. Because you can look at California and you can see where they've totally given up from the local standpoint, and they said everything's done at the national level now. The EPA is born in California, fine. Well, it also runs California. It's continued to have declining population. It's I think 6 years ago, California had 350,000 people that paid 51% of the taxes in California. Last year was 98,000. It's a downward spiral of revenues. Unemployment's rampant there. There's no industries moving there. There's nobody expanding there. Where are they expanding? Gulf Coast, Louisiana. They're moving here because there's a work environment. There's local regulators like Scott Angel and his crowd that have been able to communicate and blend the federal regulations with the state regulations in a working environment for everyone. You take upon that, you take also the intersection of resources. Plains exploration and our new partners, hopefully that when our marriage gets consummated later this spring, McMoran and Freeport Copper and Gold, Freeport McMoran Copper and Gold, will operate in the unconventional shales of North Louisiana, the deep Miocene and deep Cretaceous and tertiary projects of the Gulf Coast, and also on the shelf, as well as the deep water. So we'll operate in every environment here in Louisiana. No other state has that. So you look at it from the standpoint of the pipeline infrastructure. Now, on top of that, the refinery infrastructure, the job creation machine. And you hear about all the great things all the different companies are doing, about the education center, the stuff that Gary was appreciated for, what Chevron's done, and on, all the companies. I think one of the interesting things about this organization, LMOGA, is going to be how we package that to the world. How we package that to the legislature, how we package that to the administration through the social medias, and all the things that are used to attack us are used to tell our story. I mean, who's put on their website how many jobs they created this month? We don't do that stuff. We're too proud to do that. We're doing what we're supposed to do. How many people we trained? How many people we hired? How many lives we changed? How many kids we put through school? We just do that because that's what we're supposed to do. But as Hutch said in his comments, this is a new world. And it's a world by which we need to get our message out. And one of the things we're very excited about being a significant partner with LMOGA is this is a fabulous forum to do it, because it's a forum of successful entities working with government, working with people to better everyone's lives. And so with that, I just want everybody to think about the ways they can do that in a collective sense. The lessons learned out of the Macondo deal was we can't work together, the deep water containment systems. Industry comes together, does the right thing. I love what Rex Tillerson said. I had to get over putting a lot of money in equipment I'll never use. Nobody wants to ever use that equipment again, but we have to have it. We have to be prepared. California, we're on crisis alert all the time. Here, we just have to be prepared for a crisis. And I think it's going to be really exciting for this industry if we embrace the opportunities and get the word out of how well we're doing. If we're able to go through the whole crisis intervention with our academics and make sure the chemicals we use are all been approved before. and all the processes where you're not having to do on the job or on the crisis inventions. I mean, I think you got to hand it to the whole effort on the Macondo deal. They did 10 years of research in 90 days. So it was a phenomenal effort by the whole industry. But that's my message from the standpoint of the industry, but specifically for Louisiana. There's all this tremendous infrastructure going to be built off the low natural gas prices and the WTI Brent LLS spread, and I'm looking at everybody that's benefiting from it. And hopefully Louisiana can recognize the opportunity it's going to get again. Great part about living in Louisiana, you always get a second, third, fourth, fifth chance. The boom comes around, but I remember about every 7 years we say, oh man, we've got to cut the budget, prices are down, prices down. All of a sudden, prices ease up, everybody be cool. It's going to be okay. It's okay. And it's great. It's fantastic. But this is a significant turnaround, industrial turnaround opportunity for the education, the schools, and everything else. We should have the lowest employment in the world. We should be, with the schools, putting, rehabilitation centers for people that, get them out of their despair and move forward. So I hope the industry leaders and you guys all have real estate here called refineries. You're able to communicate that and put the pressure on your public officials to do more and give you opportunity to do more. You guys are the job hires. You're going to hire the contractors to do the work. I mean, anybody can grab a shovel and put a pair of black boots on. Even my high school son can do that. I keep telling him that. So I mean, and be a breadwinner instead of a handout. And that's a huge message for Louisiana to really continue to lead the nation, which is going to happen over the next decade. It's going to be real exciting. So that's kind of a broad message. I just want to tie together a lot of what we all heard today and so forth. But and I told Hutch I'd open it for some questions.